Have you ever wondered about the deepest mysteries hidden within the pages of the Bible? Formidable creatures that make even seasoned warriors tremble, angels who forsake their heavenly realm, and beings so powerful they defy our human understanding. What do these enigmas reveal about God, the universe, and intriguingly, about ourselves? Prepare for an epic journey that will challenge your beliefs, stir your curiosity, and touch upon the deepest mysteries of human and divine existence. Hold tight, because we are about to delve into the fascinating and sometimes contained secrets of the Holy Scriptures. Before we dive into this captivating and mysterious narrative, it is crucial to understand the context in which it occurs. We are talking about the Bible, specifically the Old Testament, which is full of symbols, visions, and stories that have shaped the faith of billions of people over the centuries. So, who are these mysterious entities that cross the pages of the Old Testament, whispering God's messages and offering unbelievable visions? Leviathan, the story of Job, and the mention of Behemoth serve as reminders that God is the supreme creator, entirely beyond our comprehension or questioning. After discussing the Behemoth, God then draws Job's attention to another impressive creature, the Leviathan, described as a fearsome aquatic creature. Leviathan is yet another example of God's power and majesty. The point is simple. If a human like Job cannot comprehend or control these formidable creatures, how could he dare question God? Leviathan is described in Job, chapter 41, verses 1 to 34. Leviathan is portrayed as a terrifying marine creature with an impenetrable armor of scales, capable of breathing fire and smoke, and so powerful that no human would dare confront it. He is described as fearsome, with extraordinary strength, quick movements, and a mouth full of terrifying teeth. The description of Leviathan also includes the ability to make the surface of the sea boil like a pot, due to its intense agitation while swimming. The mention of Leviathan serves to amplify the point that God is unquestionably greater than any of his creations, and therefore deserves our worship and reverence. Leviathan, like the Behemoth, serves to teach a lesson in humility. God uses these creatures to confront any human tendency towards pride or self-sufficiency. God is the creator of all things, great or small, and deserves our respect and reverence. These are creatures that challenge our understanding and make us question the limitations of our own existence in comparison to the greatness of God. In the cited passages, the Bible is not merely describing mythical or fantastic creatures, but is using examples from the natural world to convey deep spiritual truths about the character and sovereignty of God. Nephilim. Now, speaking of other mysterious creatures, the Bible also talks about the Nephilim in Genesis chapter 6, verses 1 to 4. When human beings began to increase in number on the earth and daughters were born to them, the sons of God saw that the daughters of humans were beautiful, and they married any of them they chose. Then the Lord said, "My spirit will not contend with humans forever, for they are mortal. Their days will be 120 years. At that time, and also afterward, there were Nephilim on the earth, when the sons of God had sexual relations with the daughters of humans, and these bore children to them. These were the mighty warriors of old, men of renown." These beings are described as the result of the union between the sons of God and the daughters of men. The presence of these creatures is another manifestation of the complexity of the spiritual world and the interaction between the divine and the human in the Bible. The presence of Nephilim is mentioned as one of the reasons for the flood in Noah's time. These beings, described as the mighty men of old, men of renown, in Genesis, seem to have contributed to the wickedness and corruption that led God to destroy the earth with a flood. This context strengthens the idea that the sons of God in Genesis, could indeed be angels. The Epistle of Jude also touches on this topic, speaking of angels who did not keep their positions of authority, but abandoned their own dwelling. Jude chapter 1, verse 6 and 7. Remember the angels who did not keep their positions of authority, but abandoned their own home. These he has kept in darkness, bound with everlasting chains for judgment on the great day. Angel of death. As we continue our exploration of the enigmas and mystical characters in the sacred scriptures, we encounter a figure both feared and fascinating, the angel of death. This being, often associated with divine judgment and the end of mortal life, emerges from various traditions and texts, acting as the final messenger between the earthly and the celestial realms. Its presence in the Bible, although not as frequently named, is insinuated through narratives where divine justice manifests in a decisive and irrevocable way. In the sacred writings, the idea of the angel of death is more a personification of an aspect of God than an independent being. In the book of Exodus, during the account of the plagues of Egypt, the 10th plague brings to light this somber figure, the death of the firstborn of Egypt. The passage describes a deadly force that passes through the Egyptian homes, sparing only those marked with the blood of the Lamb. Exodus chapter 12, verse 23, tells us that the Lord will pass over to strike Egypt. When he sees the blood on the lintel and on the 2 doorposts, the Lord will pass over the door and will not allow the destroyer to enter your houses to strike. Here, the destroyer can be seen as a manifestation of the angel of death operating under divine command. The complexity of the angel of death extends beyond punishment. He is not just an executor of death, but also a symbol of justice and the sovereignty of God. This figure reminds us of the inevitability of death and the importance of obedience and reverence for divine laws. Death, though often feared, is presented in the scriptures as a necessary passage, a portal to another existence where divine justice continues to prevail. Lucifer. Now we come to one of the most controversial and fascinating creatures created by God, Lucifer. Known by many names and surrounded by various theological interpretations, Lucifer is often associated with rebellion, pride, and the fall from divine grace. However, to truly understand his narrative and the theological impact he holds, it is essential to examine the biblical references and explore the symbolism he represents. Lucifer, whose name means light bearer or morning star, is specifically mentioned in Isaiah chapter 14, verse 12. How you have fallen from heaven, O Lucifer, son of the morning! How you are cut down to the ground, you who weakened the nations! This passage is often interpreted as an allusion to the fall of a proud angel who, by desiring to equate himself with God, is expelled from heaven. The figure of Lucifer encapsulates the tragic journey from the exalted to the exiled, symbolizing the danger of pride and unchecked ambition. In Ezekiel chapter 28, verses 12 to 17, we find a description that many scholars also associate with the figure of Lucifer, although it refers to the king of Tyre. This passage describes a being full of wisdom and perfect in beauty, who was in Eden, the garden of God, and who was corrupted by his beauty. Here, Lucifer is seen not only as a being of light, but as an example of how celestial privilege can lead to ruin when tainted by selfishness and rebellion. The story of Lucifer serves as a powerful reminder of the dangers inherent in pride and self-exaltation. He is the archetype of the fallen, whose fall is a dramatic reflection of the eternal consequences of placing oneself above the Creator. This narrative is not just a character study, but also a moral and spiritual warning about the risks of deviating from the divinely established paths. Ophanim and Cherubim. It's just another day on the banks of the river Kibar in Babylon, when the prophet Ezekiel is graced with a vision that defies any description. It is hard to imagine what was going through Ezekiel's mind as he observes a phenomenon that defies human logic. Ezekiel, chapter 1, verses 15 to 21. When I looked at the living creatures, I saw a wheel on the ground beside each creature with its 4 faces. The wheels themselves sparkled like topaz, and their structure was so complex that it looked like a wheel intersecting a wheel, and they could move in any direction without turning as they went. With such a complex design, Ezekiel struggles to put into words what he sees. But what are these wheels? In ancient Hebrew, these entities are called Ophanim. It may seem even stranger that these wheels are not the only beings Ezekiel encounters. He also sees luminous creatures with 4 different faces: human, lion, ox, and eagle. These are the cherubim, and their complex design makes us question the complexity of what is being described. The beauty of this narrative lies in its ambiguity. Ezekiel leaves us with more questions than answers. What makes this vision so potent is its simplicity in complexity. While the elements are complex, the core message is clear. God operates in ways that go beyond human comprehension. Continuing our exploration of Ezekiel's mysterious vision, we come to a description, Ezekiel chapter 1, verse 16, like a wheel intersecting a wheel. These are not simply wheels, they are wheels with eyes all around, a detail that suggests omniscience or a divine form of perception. What is even more intriguing is the symbiotic relationship between the Ophanim and the Cherubim. The Ophanim appear to move in the same way as the Cherubim, suggesting that the spirit of the living creatures was in the wheels. This relationship points to something beyond that must exist in the spiritual world, something that reflects not only order, but also the complexity of God's creation. The Ophanim in Ezekiel's vision are not explicitly called angels, raising the question, are they a distinct category of celestial beings? The vision presents them more as divine mechanisms than as messengers or warriors. What becomes clear is that Ezekiel is seeing a representation of the divine mechanism of the universe, a cosmic clock of incredible complexity and beauty. Now, before we move on to the most important part of the story, it's important to remind you to subscribe to our channel and leave a like on the video to help us continue producing more videos like this for you. Comment "God is the way" to show that you watched this inspiring story to the end. Behemoth. The story of Job takes us to another mysterious being, the Behemoth. Job is a man who faces unimaginable suffering, but even in the depths of his anguish, he does not abandon his faith in God. It is in this context that God mentions the Behemoth. Job chapter 40, verses 15 to 24. Look at the behemoth, which I made along with you, and which feeds on grass like an ox. What strength it has in its loins, what power in the muscles of its belly. This is presented as an example of God's power and majesty. The drama of Job's story lies in his quest for answers amidst suffering. He longs for an encounter with God, and finally, this occurs. God speaks to Job not to answer his questions directly, but to place them in a much larger context, the grandeur of creation and divine sovereignty. God points to the complexity of the world and the creature like the behemoth as evidence of his power and majesty. The behemoth is a creature of immense grandeur. There is much speculation about what the behemoth might really be, but one thing is clear. It is a monumental example of God's ability as a creator. God presents the behemoth to Job to show that if Job cannot understand or control such a creature, how much less could he understand or question God? The text describes the behemoth as immense, with powerful muscles, living amidst nature, almost indifferent to the elements around it. There are different theories about what the behemoth could be. Some consider it a hippopotamus due to the description of its large mouth and habit of living near water. Others argue it could be an elephant, regardless of its true nature. The point is to show that this is a creature that only God could create and control.